Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of Meeting the Makers. And today you'll see on screen that we have the lovely Ayozie from the UK. How are you, Ayozie?
I'm very well, thank you. It's such a joy to be here, virtually and to meet you. I'm really looking forward to our chat. Super excited.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So Ayozie is on YouTube as Ayozie Designs, and you can also find her on Instagram and as well as Etsy. Do you have any other social media accounts at all?
No, that's it.
Okay, so as I said, thank you so much for joining us. It's just Ayozie and I were just having a little bit of a discussion about how great it is to be able to catch up, well, not in real life, but virtually, and actually get to have a chat and feel like we're sitting around a table and having a coffee. So it's amazing what technology allows us to do. So I'm really grateful that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
For the people that don't know a lot about you, Ayozie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I live in just outside London. We used to live in London. We just moved just outside London with my husband and two daughters. I have two grown-up daughters. One's 22 and one's 19, about to go off to university. I grew up in Nigeria till I was 15, and then I moved to the UK with my family. I'm also, as well as doing art and making journals, I'm also a singer, and I run sessions. I work for a couple of charities where I run sessions for mums who are struggling with perinatal mental health issues, like postnatal depression and anxiety. And we do singing sessions together with the mums and their babies. So it's really, really precious work.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. That'd be music is therapy, isn't it, to everybody. I don't think that I've met anyone that doesn't like some sort of music and can be calmed by it. So that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing work to do. I didn't know that you sang. If I had have known that, I would have asked you to sing for us.
I'm in croaky voice this morning, so I'll spare you.
Okay, well, we'll believe you. We'll believe you this time. I could sing for you, but I think I have a good voice. But when I start singing, my kids go, "Oh, Mum, please stop." So I won't put you through that. Wow. So I followed you for quite a while, and I love your roses that you paint. It seems to be a feature of yours, and it's good to see you back on YouTube after a little bit of a breakaway. Are you excited to be back?
Very much so. I really I genuinely feel like, I feel like you're my friend. I feel like people I connect with on YouTube are friends, and it really is life-giving, to share something. There's always so much vulnerability, isn't there, in sharing our work or sharing our process or sharing bits of our life, and then to have people respond and pretty much all the time it's really positive and encouraging, and it just feels really really precious. I always miss it when I have time away, and then when I come back I'm like, oh man, why did I take so long to make another video, or
I think it's good to have that break though, if you know that you need it, to have that break and you come back all refreshed and ready to create again. So in your break, were you still creating?
Yes, I was. I mean, I for most of last year, we'll probably talk about this a bit later. For most of last year, I had some health issues, and so I needed to take the time out. But I was still creating. I was still, making stuff for myself, still journaling. I do a lot of journaling anyways, part of my daily practice, and making lots of art. So I think that's the thing with art and creativity, is whatever season of life that you're in, just having that constancy, having that time, that stillness, to just do something, even if it's the littlest thing, is really important. Yeah.
And have you always kept a journal?
Yes, I have. Probably since I was a young teenager. No, actually earlier. I've got journals right back to when I was about 10 years old. 9 or 10.
So you've still got?
Yeah, I've still got them. It's quite hilarious to read back, and see life from my 10-year-old 10-year-old self's perspective. But yeah, I've always kept a journal, or, you know, mostly. Yeah.
I think I can think back to, I think I was about 12 or 13, and I don't know whether you get, I would imagine that you would have gotten them over in the UK, but the little hardcover journals with the padlock on it and the key.
Oh,
and,
yes.
Yeah, that's my favorite I've ever
Yes.
had. No, I don't have, or I don't know where they ended up, or someone's probably having a good laugh at the moment.
Yes.
Oh, so when you say you have a daily practice, do you mainly, is there, you know, some people do morning pages, or do you do it before you wind down for the night? When's the best time that you do it, or do you just do it randomly?
It varies, actually. Sometimes it's in the morning, and sometimes it's last thing at night. It's usually those moments in the day where there's quiet. So if I'm organized and, you know, up and ready, it's in the morning. But actually, I tend to journal more now late at night, before I go to bed. I just really enjoy the stillness of that time. And I have a process where I just, for my personal journaling, where I draw and paint a rose most days in my journal, and then I write right next to it. So for the last maybe 3 years, I have journals full of roses and writing, and I never get bored of it. It's funny how doing something repetitively, it just doesn't get boring for me. So
I was going to say it would never get old seeing a rose. I mean, they're beautiful.
Yeah, they're always different, and each one is different. Each one is unique. So,
but safe to say that your favorite flower would be a rose. So if you haven't seen Ayozie's roses and her art, make sure you head over to YouTube and Instagram, and you also sell some of your prints on Etsy, don't you?
yes.
Or
Sorry, I missed that. My Wi-Fi is cutting out.
that's okay. Your artwork over on Etsy, are they original pieces or prints?
Yes, I have some prints, and then I do have some original pieces, some small A5 originals on there as well. Yeah,
they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
So speaking of painting roses, do you have a favorite brand of watercolors that you use?
No, I couldn't even tell you what my watercolor palette is. I think it's Winsor and Newton. But for the longest time I had the same watercolor palette that I had when I was I just moved to England when I was 15, and in art class they recommended we buy this palette, and I just used that I still have it from when I was 16, and then I recently purchased a Winsor and Newton. So I'm not very fussy actually about, you know, what watercolors I use, as long as I'm also like gouache. Sometimes I use gouache as well. Yeah, I'm not super fussy, but I think my current palette is Winsor and Newton.
Yeah, it just goes to show though that if you were using the same palette that you had when you were 15, you don't have to have anything flash to be able to create art, do you?
Not at all. I think just use what you have, and just use what you have, and what you like is the main thing, really.
Yeah. So over the years, now you've been doing YouTube for about 5 years, is that correct?
I think since 2015, it's about 8. I think it's about 8 years.
About 8 years.
Yes, I think so.
So what made you start a YouTube channel?
Well, I just discovered junk journaling, and around about the same time, 8 years ago, and I must have stumbled on some videos on YouTube, and I was like, what is this magic? Combination of a journal with interactive pages and all these things that were, you know, they were filled with so many tags and ephemera, and I don't know, it was just magic to me. I was so excited, and I just thought, I'm going to make one. And I used to watch a lot of videos, you know, where people flip through they still do, flip through their journals. And so yeah, I thought I'd have a go. So that was what prompted me to start the YouTube channel. I think I don't think those early videos are still on there, but I was sharing my early junk journals on YouTube.
Yeah, so you've made a lot of journals over the years, particularly in the last few years. I've really been attracted to some of the journals that you've made, and they're all in different styles. Oh, excuse me. Would you say that you have a particular style? I know that you love colour.
Yes.
So do you let us know what your style is?
I don't know. I think it's always evolving. I think in the early days I always used a lot of color. I'm always drawn to loads of color, and I always would incorporate some of my artwork into the journals that I made. But I always had this kind of tension, I guess, between what I thought I should make and what I was naturally drawn to. So I think my style was evolving, just as we all do, as you know, grow in confidence in believing that what you do is good and it's yours and it's beautiful, as opposed to what you think. What I used to struggle with what I think would be more acceptable. I don't know if that makes any sense, but so I think my style is evolving, but definitely I'm drawn to lots of color. It's very eclectic now. I used to make journals that were very themed initially, and I really, really loved that. I'm actually thinking of maybe returning back to that, but I think over time they've become more eclectic, and it's just full of whatever takes my fancy.
Yeah. So in your recent video, you've said that you're leaning now towards art journals, which
That's right.
Is very similar, I guess, to a junk journal, because you can still add, you know, all different types of paper. But are you finding that you're putting more watercolor paper, mixed media papers and that in your journals now?
Yes. I think yeah, exactly that. I think as I art journal, I realize, I discover what papers work better, you know, like with different media, like with watercolor, you kind of need a thicker, more robust paper. So I try to incorporate that more. But also, as I've been being more playful, you realize you can paint on anything. You can paint on a scrap of an old book page, or, you know, it really doesn't matter. So I think I'm leaning actually more towards just making books that are enjoyable rather than have a specific function, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, and then you can add any medium into them.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, if you've got a base of watercolor paper or mixed media paper, that type of thing, you can always add, you know, like we all love those flips and flaps and tucks and pockets and the rest of it, don't we? So there's no boundaries really. So we'll be selling more of your journals on Etsy in the future?
Yes, I think I'd like to get back. I haven't really, I stopped selling journals for a little while. As you say, I had some time out, but yeah, I'd like to. And yeah, is the short answer to your question.
So I'm going to also say that you have a couple of sets of stamps in your Etsy. I am the lucky owner of one of those sets of the rose, which is really lovely. So is there any more stamps in your future, do you think?
Not at the moment. I think I've been playing more with hand carving things. So I tried out a few lino cuts recently, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't had any ideas. It's funny. I look back on the stamp sets that I made. I'm like, oh, I could have done something. You know, you always look back at something. You could have done it differently. So maybe one of them, particularly the roses. I think my style of drawing roses is a little bit looser than it was when I made the rose stamp set. So I might do a variation of that in the future. Yeah.
Well, I'll keep an eye out for that. I'll be excited to get a set. So you just touched on your lino printing. I've just popped a question in there that you didn't know I was going to ask about. So I love the idea. I bought all the supplies, as we do. You think you want to try this, you know, this or that. And I've gone and bought all the supplies a couple of months ago, and I've never even used it. So have you got any tips for me or anyone that's watching that want to give it a go, you know, do's or don'ts?
Lino printing. I'm no expert at all. Let me show you. Oh, I probably do. Yeah, I do have it. I'm no expert. I just had these, probably can't see that very well. I can't even remember where I got these from. I just had them, and I just drew out, oh, you can't see that at all. But anyway, you can kind of see it there. Yeah. I just drew out a design, and then you buy the cutter. I don't know where, I haven't got it to hand. And just play. I think you can get really, there's like a soft, it's called a soft rubber. It's soft anyway. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but that's what I bought, the white.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know either.
It's really, I think that's easy. This was quite tricky to carve into. You need a little, you know, really have to. But as I say, I'm no expert. I'm just playing. I think that's that's the thing with these things. I did buy a book, but I haven't looked through it yet. It's just play. You know, if you can get like a soft bit that's you know quite inexpensive, and just draw out a design and then play. I don't know I think to make it into a stamp, you've got to cut away. So if this is just like a lino print.
So you've
but if
cut into
yeah, so to make it into a stamp, you'd have to cut away all of these bits. I mean, that seems quite involved to me, and this is quite hard. You need a softer lino block. I don't know if that was helpful at all, but
no, I think it's something that I need to learn to do, is to just play and not be afraid of messing up.
yes,
I'm frightened of messing up. I mean, that's how we learn, and that's how we understand our supplies, isn't it? So I just need to get over myself and play.
yeah, that's yeah. I mean, I come up against that all the time, and I just it doesn't matter if this gets wasted. I can still still go in my journal. The print will still go in my journal, so it's fine.
Yeah, and it's yours. So, and you can, you know, like you say, you've looked back at 10 years or 10, 20 years ago at your journals and see how much you've grown and changed over time. So it's the same with our art, I suppose. So
yeah, absolutely.
So you've recently moved house. Now that would have been a big job, very stressful time for you, and still unpacking, the poor things. I feel your pain. Have you actually had a chance to have some time to yourself to create in amongst all the moving and the upheaval?
Yeah, I think funnily enough, when I decided this year to join in with Junk Journal July. I don't know if you're aware of that, you know,
your journal, yeah.
Yeah, so it's hosted by Meg Journals, and then there's a prompt each day. And so I really was grateful, actually, because in fact, when I started it, I'm not even sure I knew that we were going to move, because we had to move really quickly. It just kept me on an even keel. So what I did was I just kept a box of supplies, and everything else was chaos. But each day it meant that whilst we were still packing at the old house, it meant that I had a prompt that was already ready-made for me, and just to do something in my journal. And it kept me on such an even keel, even through the move. And I think we moved in here last 4 days of July. So yeah, I still had my journal. So it forced me actually to,
good.
Well, encouraged me is a better word, encouraged me to stay consistent with creativity, and consequently that I was much more calm and peaceful. And even in here now, I kind of know where everything is. It's a bit more, it made it my priority to get this room, you know, usable at least. So, yeah.
And I think that a good, if we can do something, a little bit of something every day, just to help our stress levels, and, you know, have a bit of creative self-care, because a lot of people, and I know sometimes for myself, when I'm stressed or I've got a lot going on in my life, it's always the first thing that I let go of, you know, over other things, and then I suffer because of it. So I need to, like you said, make it a daily practice of just doing, which I pretty much do for the most part, you know, and then I might have a week or two where I just everything, you know, where I don't do anything. But even if it's just 5 minutes, just writing whatever's in here down on a journal and doing doodling or something like that.
Yeah, it really helps. It really helps. And it's also showing grace, because, you know, it's sometimes not possible to do it every single day, but having a consistent practice, I think, and giving ourselves grace when that's not, you know, there's some days where it just doesn't happen, or it's not possible. But I think having a consistent, regular practice or habit of creative, of nurturing our creativity is really important. I think it just makes life richer. I think it definitely helps me to feel grounded. It helps me to feel awake. You know, you know, like with all artists, you have moments where you feel like you're fast asleep and you're never going to have a creative spark ever again. And then moments where we just feel awake and alive to color. You go for a walk and you're like, wow, look at all of these colors. And I think having a consistent practice actually helps with that. So.
Okay, so touching on that, that's one of the questions that I was going to ask was, if you are in that creative funk, how do you become inspired again, and how do you stay motivated to create?
Yeah, I think it's just with starting with something small. With always is showing yourself kindness, because sometimes we're in a creative funk for a reason, you know. So for example, for me, I wasn't physically well for most of last year. And when you don't feel well, you don't feel your creative self doesn't necessarily feel that well either. And so I think it's just kindness, showing yourself kindness, but also just doing something small and calling it good, you know, even the littlest thing, and just going, wow, I did something to this. I remember last year setting myself just these little, I have them here actually. I made these little tags, you know, and then some days I would just collage. No, the first step was I'd paint them. So I just go, do you know what? I'm just going to paint a little card blue. And that was my task for the day. And I'd go, you know, and then the next day I could collage a little bit on it and then add things to it. Then the next day, maybe some mark making. And then the last stage was usually like a little message that I'd type and stick on. This one says, rediscover joy, rest. And, you know, I'd write a little message to myself. So it's just just a little thing, you know, each day. It doesn't even have to have an end result at all. It could just be splashing paint in your journal, or, you know, making a tag, you know, anything, you know, or inking, you know, anything, you know, you know what I'm talking about.
So
I just think, yeah,
just getting back to just play.
exactly.
Play. But idea of, you know, I don't know, just the simplest thing. Sometimes I just think, you know, why don't I think of that? You know, just like you say, put some paint on a few tags, leave it and come back. And then the next day you can add some scrap paper or a bit of fabric, or do some stamping. Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that. Just the little, you know, just a little step each day. I think I'm always looking for a finished product.
Yes.
Same, you know,
here.
I haven't finished it, I'm not going to finish it, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's a really good idea. I'm going to take that on board. I'm writing that down now. So Ayozie, with your creative journey, was there one person in particular that has inspired you to start creating? We can go way back to your childhood. Yeah, so just, is there anyone in particular?
I think over the years there's been different people. So when I was younger, I remember being a child and my older siblings would come back from school with their art projects, and I'd be so interested. I remember actually helping my sister with an art project. She had to make like a leaf album, you know, collect, because we lived in Nigeria at the time, collect up all the leaves and label them and stick them in a book. And I think I pretty much did it for her because I was so excited by this thing, you know, this process. And I was inspired by my siblings doing art. And I think I remember moving to England when I was 15. I was very disorientated. And my art teacher at the time, I don't even remember her name, isn't that terrible? But she really, I don't know, she just made me love art. I remember going into the art room and I always felt, I know this, you know, she introduced me to watercolors, and I don't know, I just really loved it. I loved the process of them. And then there were so many changes over the years, but I always would come back to that feeling of, with art, I know where I am, or with a journal, you know, just that feeling of returning, you know, returning. I think art has always represented that to me. It's interesting. My name, Ayozie, means to return.
Oh,
and yes, I've always had a process of returning to art, and
that's lovely. So, oh, excuse me. So I guess that's, you know, like I was going to say, what's your first memory of being creative? So just sort of tagging onto that last question. So is your first real memory of your siblings coming home with their art projects and you joining in?
Yes, that's what I was thinking about that. Yeah, I think it would be that. And I remember my brother painted this house plant and I was like, yeah, I really want to try that. And so I did, and I was like, oh, actually, I was really happy with what I made. I must have been about 7. I can't remember how old I was. And I just remember from then on just having always a love for art. I didn't actually stick with it for many years because I went to university, studied something else. I trained to be a lawyer. And then I returned to art later, again, returned to it later on. I didn't always do it consistently throughout my life.
Yeah. Oh, you've come back home. So when you're making any of your junk journals or your art journals, are there any specific factors that you consider when you're first starting?
Yeah, I think earlier on when I was making themed journals, so if I was going to make a nature journal, I just gather lots of things. I'd gather book pages, I'd gather inspiration from nature. I would do some watercolors that were, because I always used to like to put watercolors in my journal. So I think if I was starting with a theme, I'd gather lots of things. I'd make sure I'd have my tea or coffee dyed papers, ephemera, and then I'd collect it all into a journal. But I think as time has gone on, it's definitely, I don't really have a process at all. It's more just what I like or a discovery that I might have made in my own practice. I think, oh, I really would like to put that in a journal. So I think over time, the process has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find a lot of the time, because I do a lot of botanical or nature themed journals, that's what I tend to like, although I don't like to put myself in a particular box. I like to try different things anyway, but I just find that I can't move on with a journal until I've done the cover. Like the cover is sort of like the start for me. And if I try and do signatures first, it will take me 10 times as long to do the journal. I have to do the cover and then it's all full steam ahead from there.
Yes, that's interesting. Yeah, I used to leave the cover till last, and then it would end up being, I've always found it really hard to then make a cover that matched. I don't know. I used to find that quite hard. So I think that's a good way around, to start with the cover and then go from there. It's interesting, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's taken me probably 4 years to work that out, but I finally worked it out. So in the junk journaling community, I know that you've had a little bit of a break, but I'm sure you've sort of been keeping an eye on what's been going on. Are there any themes or trends recently that you've seen that you'd like to give a try?
I've always been intrigued by, like really grungy types of journals. I don't know how to explain them, but like just grungy. And I've never been able to do it because I'm quite perfectionist. I don't know. I just like things to look nice, and it's not that grungy doesn't look nice, because it does. I love it. That's why I want to try it. I just would really love to have the freedom to just play freely in a journal, because and then also I would like to try hand stitching. I've noticed there's bits of hand stitching, but again, that takes patience. It takes so much quicker to use the sewing machine. But yeah, I'd like to try those. I'd like to just see what it's like to be completely free in a journal.
Oh well, so that's work. Hand stitching is really lovely. It just adds that little bit of extra texture, even though even step up from your sewing machine, you can add all different types of fibers with the hand stitching.
Yes, I'd like to try
that. Of that in your videos coming up. So so we've already touched on this. One of the questions I was going to ask is what's your favorite medium to work with? But we would say maybe watercolor.
Yeah, I think it is. It varies, actually. I think, watercolors, with my daily practice for sure, always. But I really love acrylics. It varies, to be honest. At the moment, I think my favorite medium is paper and glue, just doing collage. It really, when I'm stuck, just sticking random bits of paper on a tag or on a page always helps me. And then it kind of gives you like I don't know what the phrase is, a bouncing point, a jumping off point, because like the colors or the textures that you create just from your free collage sometimes will inform your next step. And so I think actually collage at the moment is my favorite thing. So paper and glue, but then it varies. Sometimes it's watercolor, sometimes it's acrylic paints or inks. I really love inks as well. Yeah.
There's just so much available, isn't there?
Yes.
We want it all.
Exactly.
So we know that you use roses in your creations a lot. Are there any other unique features that you add into nearly every journal that you create?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. To be honest, it's usually roses or some of my artwork. Sometimes I make my artwork into prints. So I remember, was it in I think it's 2020 or 2021? I did the 100-day project. And so I just made loads and loads of little bits of art. And sometimes there were roses and sometimes they weren't. They were like faces, or yeah, it varies. So sometimes I'll make prints of those, or sometimes even incorporate the originals into them. So it's usually a unique feature would usually be something of my artwork in a journal.
How did you find the 100-day project?
Yeah, I think the first time I did it was 2020, and we were in lockdown for most of 2020. So I think that really helped me. At 2021, I quit after day 50. It just got too much.
Well, I've thought of doing it, but I can't even get to day one.
I think I was too adventurous in what I set myself. It was taking me too long to do every day. So 2020, I did the whole 100 days, which was amazing. I was so proud of myself. And then 2021, I did and then I haven't done it since then. I didn't do it last year, obviously.
I might try for next year. We'll see what happens. So once again, we're just going back to your journals. Do you try to strike a balance between functionality and aesthetics when you're doing your journals?
That's such a good question. That's a really good question. I've really struggled with this, because I won't say struggled. It's just I've grappled with it, because I write. Some people don't write a lot in their journals. They don't mind if they don't have a lot of writing space, but I'm a writer. I love to write. That's how I process things. And so whenever I make a journal, I always ask myself, could I use this? And then, but having said that, I have got bogged down with the functionality element, because I start to be concerned with, oh, there's not enough space to write. And I actually would just love to make a journal
freely.
Yes, exactly. So it's a really, really good question, because it's definitely something I'm always grappling with, and sometimes just lovely to have a book that you can leaf. Some people just like to leaf through a book and be inspired, maybe just add a few things to it. Everyone uses their journals differently. So I think if somebody loves the journal enough to purchase it from you, then they will use it however they want to use it. And so, yeah.
I think with that question, I'm probably more functionality now when I make my journals, thinking that they would be used for the ones that I sell. If I'm doing a junk journal for myself, I will just make it blank and then decorate it as I go, as I journal. But looking back at some of my first journals I ever made, I think that I just, like, they are so, they open like this, and I've just stuck down everywhere, and there's flips and all sorts of things. And I think looking back, I'd like to try and get back to that.
Yes.
Just have fun and just create for the hell of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what people are drawn to, I think that's just free and wonderfully expressive is attractive, So.
It is, isn't it? So how do you engage with your community of creatives, and how does that influence your body of work, if it does at all?
I think through social media, so through Instagram, through YouTube. As I mentioned earlier, I just find it to be really life-giving, and it's something it's something I want to do more. I want to engage with other creators more. I'm so excited that you asked me to be on here, because this was my heart's desire, and then you invited me. I'm just so thrilled, just to be able to chat to other creatives, even if it's online or through, typing messages or whatever. But yeah, and yeah, it does inform my body of work, because it helps with inspiration. So for example, I just did the Instagram challenge Junk Journal July, and I felt so inspired by the end of it, so nostalgic actually for some of the things that I used to do before that I had let go of, and I was like, yeah, I really loved this. So I don't know, it does inform my work, because we inspire each other, don't we? And we encourage each other, and yeah.
Definitely. It's and this is how this series all came about, was just from a sleepless night and thinking about being creative and who inspires me, and thinking about, I wonder if this about them, and wonder if they do that. And so I thought, well, why not try and get as many people on board as I can, and find out a little bit more about your creative journey, and how you yeah, how you work through challenges and that type of thing. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far, and learning lots as I go. So okay, so obviously you draw some of your inspiration from the garden and the roses. Is there anywhere else do you find inspiration for your creations?
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of inspiration online by watching other creatives, and on Instagram as well. I'm very visual, so it's really just lovely to see what other people are doing. There's just such incredible generosity, you know, of people sharing their work and sharing their process, and it kind of sparks creativity in others. I get a lot of inspiration from going for walks, you know, in nature. And sometimes I have to actually work hard not to photograph every single thing I see, and just to say to myself, it's okay, it's gone in, it's, you know, you see something and it goes in, and it might just inform, it might be a color that you saw on your walk, and it will inform something that you do. But sometimes I just want to capture it all, but it's not, it's sometimes just when you're relaxed and going for a walk or out and about, inspiration just goes in, it permeates.
Yeah, and it pops back up again anyway if you forget about it, and it ends up popping up down the track, doesn't it? And you go, oh, I remember I saw that, you know, the other day, a walk or whatever. So yeah. Right. So when you create, do you have your own space?
Yes, so I'm very thankful. This is a smaller space than the house we just moved out of, but I'm still very thankful to have a space. I mean, for the longest time, in fact, in all of those years where I was making junk journals, I didn't have a designated room, because we were living in a small flat in an old library in central London for 11 years. And I just had a desk in the corner of a room that I used to create in. It was bonkers, actually. I just had stuff absolutely everywhere. So you don't really have to have a designated room, but I'm very, very grateful to have one now. It feels like my haven. It's just it's a real blessing. Yeah,
that's good. I can imagine when you say it was bonkers, I could imagine if I had just a corner in a desk in the corner, I'd hate to think what my house would look like. Crazy. So do you have any favorite tools that you just can't do without?
Tools, yes. Drawing, ink pens. So my favorite tool, I can't remember what it's called, you know, an ink pen, fine liner pens. Because I always draw with them, and I really love my ink dip pen. I don't have, it's out on my retail, so I've shown you my ink pot with drawing ink and a dip pen. I really, really enjoyed that. I've got inks in black or white, so I draw with those as well. So yeah, definitely. Even when I'm going out, actually, I put my journal in my bag, and I have a fine liner pen in there just in case I want to draw something.
Yeah. So with your dip pen, do you write with that as well, or do you mainly just keep that for drawing?
Mainly just for drawing, yeah.
So is there a particular pen that you do your writing with, or do you just grab whatever's on your desk?
For writing, just, you know, writing in my journal, I always have a fountain. But I sound really particular, don't I, about my pens? So as I'm speaking, I feel like I am. Yeah,
It's my favorite pen, and it's a Signo Uniball point.
Oh yes, they are really good. Yes, they are.
Office supply store. I was there today actually, and I bought 8.
Wow, good.
But while I'm there, I don't sell them anymore. And what am I going to do then? I use this for and they're like, anyone takes them from my desk, I hunt them down and find where they've put it. I love them.
Exactly. Yeah. I use the white Signo Uniball, the white gel ones. But yeah, to write with, I use a fountain pen. I have 2, what are they called? A Lamy fountain pen. And then to draw with any brand of fine liner, really. Number 0.3 is my favorite one to draw with. So
okay. So have you faced any challenges with regards to your creative journey?
Yeah, I think again, last year I think it was majorly challenging. I had 2 lots of surgery last year, and then I had various health issues, but I also was on medication which meant I had to self-isolate, because it was you know, with COVID going around, I was on immune suppressants, is what I'm trying to say. And I think the the combination of being isolated and not feeling that well was very, very challenging to my creativity. Yeah, I think that was I think that's been just health, chronic health condition really over the years has always challenged me. But it has actually also given me the opportunity to be creative, because now I'm working outside of the home. I'm doing other work. I'm doing other singing work. I'm so thankful to be well enough and just to have the energy to do that. But in times where I haven't been able to, creativity has always been a place where I could return to and just be, because usually you have enough, energy to sit at a desk and to do something little, even if it's for 5 minutes.
Do you have any future goals that you'd like to?
I think are just really simple. They're present goals really, and future goals, just to keep enjoying art, just to keep discovering joy in what I make, whatever it is, to keep connecting with other creatives. Again, today has just been so lovely. Yeah, I think that's it. Just to allow myself to evolve, to allow myself to change, and to go with where my interest takes me, rather than feel limited to one thing. I think so I guess a broad answer would be more freedom and more connection. How about that? Yeah, as a future goal.
Good. Sounds good. So you said you've got 2 daughters. Are they creative? Do they like doing art or anything like that?
Yeah, they're both amazing artists. They haven't gone into art as professions, but they both studied art at school, and they're both, like, I ask my younger daughter for art advice if she's incredible with painting portraits. So whenever I'm painting a face, I call her in and say, she helps me with the colors, mixing colors. And yeah, they're both amazing. It's really lovely to see how they've embraced that and run with it in their own ways.
Yeah, and that's lovely that you've got that in common too, and you can do things like that together.
Yeah.
You're saying I can't do faces. I can't draw a stick person. I'm hopeless at drawing. So, and I've tried to do faces. I did that, but that was a stencil.
I was just going to say, that's so beautiful. Absolutely stunning behind you. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's cheating a bit, but I would be one of those people that do faces without eyes, and like one of the blank faces. And you were saying about your daughter helping you with colors and that type of thing. Do you have a particular color combination that you are always drawn to? Like, I'm always drawn to pink and teal.
Mm-hmm. Actually, same here. That's why I love that painting behind you, because it's got all of my favorite colors in there. Yeah. I'm always drawn to blues and pinks, for always, like in all the roses I paint always have, there's no writing on this page, so there's always pinks and blues. Yeah. always pinks, blues and greens. That is and some purple. I'm always drawn to that kind of color palette.
Yeah, I think that's what really drew me to your art in the first place, was the pink and teal and the roses, because that's what I love as well. So yeah, and I just saw that and I went, I could sit there and watch you drawing your roses for hours. I don't know. I'll have to keep practicing. I'll keep practicing. When I get it, I'll show you one. Drawing. So if you could offer one piece of advice to our fellow creators, what would that be?
I think to trust yourself is really important, to trust your process, to trust your preferences, trust your instincts, trust your sight. Like, if you like something, then it's good. Really, it took me a really long time to accept that. And of course, we have inspiration from others and from other people's work. But I think it's very important not to fall into a comparison trap where you think there's a set way to do something, or that there's, because the way you draw a rose is going to be different to the way I draw a rose, or the way that you make your beautiful, beautiful journals it might be different from the way that I do it. And I think in everything that we do, it's just trusting our own, because there's no one else who sees, because we even have debates in our household about what shade, what I call red, my daughters call orange. It's really hilarious. I don't know if they sometimes say I'm color, but I know that I'm not. I just see color differently, you know, and we all do. I think our perspective is unique, is what I'm trying to.
Yeah, I think we perceive all things in our life differently, don't we? You know, we all see different angles, and yeah, so that's interesting though, isn't it? You know, that they see it as orange and you see it as red. Yeah,
yeah, it's a ongoing ongoing joke in our house. But yeah, but I just think the way, so that would be my piece of advice, to just trust your own process and your own preference. It's because no one else has that.
That's right. And be you, I guess, because there's that quote, isn't it? Be you because everyone else is taken, you know. So
exactly.
Don't compare. So that's all your beautiful artwork in the background there too, I see.
Yes, just bits and pieces. I had this shelving unit in the old the house we just moved from, so I wanted to feel like it was a similar space, so I set it up the same, and it makes me really happy. Yeah, so just colors and
good. So is there anything else that you want to share with us today? In a minute I'll ask you to leave us with your favorite quote or affirmation, but is there anything else that you've got exciting coming up that you want to share, or you're just looking at doing some more videos for us?
Yeah, I think I'm just, I really, the desire I've set for myself is consistency, you know, just to show up. It doesn't, you know, and just to be, just to share a bit more of my process, you know, without being afraid. I think the thing that inhibits me the most is the fear of judgment, or fear that it's not enough, or what, you know, all of these kinds of things. And I think just showing up and being present in a space is important. I mean, like YouTube, making more videos is definitely something that I want to do.
Good. Well, yeah. I look forward to that. It's funny you say just show up and just do your thing, because I don't know how many, every time I sit down to do a video, I've got to take deep breaths and I get really nervous still, you know, and I've been doing YouTube videos for nearly 5 years now, and and quite often there'll be a video that I'll do and I go, oh my, I can't post that. Who's going to be interested in that? So I delete it, you know, and I just have to do it. It's, you know, for me, and if one person gets something out of it, you know, I've achieved what I set out to do. So I think we've got to stop being so self-critical and just enjoy it.
Exactly. And it's an incredible act of generosity, Sue, that you make, you know, so the videos that you make is just so generous, you know, to give of your time and to share of your process. And you're very, very brave. Sometimes you do live videos and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's just, I'm not brave enough at all. I wouldn't even know where to begin, but it's just incredible generosity.
I think the live videos too are more of a, it's a really nice way to catch up and like this, but to chat, you know, have the chat. It's hard to keep up sometimes if you're trying to create and see what everyone's talking about, but everyone just enjoys catching up with one another and myself. And, you know, even if I just do stick paper down on, I think I did that a couple of weeks ago. I had no inspiration. I was tired and I just stuck paper down on tags. That's all I did. But it was lovely to catch up with everyone.
Amazing.
Yeah. So tell us, Ayozie, what is your favorite quote or affirmation?
My favorite quote, I was thinking about this, it's actually a verse from scripture, and it talks about the desert. It says the desert will blossom like the rose and it will rejoice and sing. And I think I saw that, and I don't know, it just made me happy because I spend a lot of my time drawing roses. And it's just this idea that creativity brings life to the areas that have previously felt dry and have felt lifeless, and just engaging with our creative selves brings life, it brings joy, it brings expression. So yeah, that's my favorite quote of the moment.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for having me, Sue. It's been such a joy.
And I'd love to keep in touch, and I really look more videos. As I said, I was so excited when I saw your face pop up on screen again. So we're one of the first people that I asked to come on board with this series. So I'm really glad that you said yes. So I will put Ayozie's details all in the description box. So make sure you head over if you haven't already and check out her videos on YouTube, Instagram, and she also has an Etsy store. So I'll add all those in the description box. So thank you so much for giving us your time today, and have an exciting plan for the rest of your day. Bit of art.
Yeah, some art. Yeah, I just feel, I actually feel really inspired after our chat. So yeah, I'm going to do some art today. So.
Oh, good. All right. Well, you have fun, and it was so lovely to chat with you. And I'll be in touch again soon.
Okay. Lots of love.
Bye-bye. Bye.